Welcome. I'm Randy Osborne. You're listening to the Bible Science for Kids podcast from a uniquely young earth biblical creationist perspective. This is Cycle 2, Lesson number 13, United States Space Missions. But before we start today's lesson, let's do a quick review of our last lesson. Do you remember what are some other bodies in our solar system? Answer: some other bodies in our solar system are, the first one is star-like rocks, asteroids. Second, dirty young snowballs, comets. Third, flying space rocks, meteoroids. Fourth, migrated space rocks, meteorites. Who's proud of you? I am. Good job. Now for Cycle 2, Lesson number 13, United States Space Missions. Reaching for the heavens. From ancient times, people have looked up at the night sky with wonder. The stars, planets, moon, and comets remind us of how vast and mysterious the universe is. In the 20th century, that curiosity led to actual space missions, sending humans and machines beyond Earth's atmosphere to explore what God has made. Missions involving United States astronauts, rockets, satellites, and spacecraft taught us amazing things about the moon's surface, the sun's power, the nature of objects like asteroids, comets, meteoroids, and meteorites. Behind each mission were thousands of engineers, astronauts, and scientists working together in awe of the vast universe that was created by God in the beginning. Listen to what God's Word tells us in Psalm 8, verses 3 and 4. New King James Version. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him? Question. What are some of the names of the United States space missions? Answer. Some names of United States space missions are Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Space Shuttle. First, Project Mercury, America's first step into space. Project Mercury was America's first human spaceflight program, started by NASA in the year 1958. I was 2 years old. NASA stands for National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Its goal was simple but historic, to see if humans could survive and work in space. In 1961, Alan Shepard became the first American to fly in space aboard Mercury's Freedom 7. The Mercury capsules were small, just big enough for one astronaut, and they were launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. These missions helped scientists learn how the human body reacts to weightlessness, powerful and rapid acceleration, and solar radiation. Mercury's missions also showed us that space is vast and complex and governed by laws, the same laws that govern the Earth. Second was Project Gemini, learning to work in space. The Gemini missions, 1961 through 1966, were designed to solve the problems of long-term space travel. Each Gemini capsule carried 2 astronauts and tested things like spacewalks, orbital docking, and surviving in space for more than a week. One important mission, Gemini 4, included the first American spacewalk by Ed White. These missions taught astronauts how to control spacecraft in orbit and how to prepare for trips to the moon. Gemini showed how energy from the sun affects equipment and humans, and how time and motion in orbit must be accurately calculated. The careful planning and math involved reflect God's order in the universe. Like 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, "For God is not a God of confusion." Next, we have Project Apollo, walking on the moon. Project Apollo was the most famous space program with the goal of landing humans on the moon and returning them safely. Wernher von Braun was the flight director in charge of developing the powerful Saturn V rocket, the launch vehicle that carried astronauts to the moon during the Apollo missions. Wernher von Braun said, "The more I study the universe, the more I believe in a creator." On Christmas Eve, in the year 1968, astronauts of Apollo 8 were in lunar orbit and read out loud on live television, being watched by an estimated 1 billion people, Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 10. "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved over the face of the waters. And God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, 'Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters.' And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, 'Let the waters under heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear.' And it was so. And God called the dry land earth. And the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good." In 1969, Apollo 11's astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon, while Michael Collins stayed in orbit. After landing, Buzz Aldrin privately read John 15:5 KJV, "I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing." And Buzz Aldrin also took communion. When Neil Armstrong took the first step onto the moon, he famously said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." The Apollo missions taught us that the moon has no atmosphere. Its rocks contain oxygen, silicon, and iron, and its surface is covered with fine dust from micrometeorite impacts. Apollo 17 even discovered orange soil, possibly from volcanic activity. These missions also helped us understand the sun's radiation and Earth's magnetic field, and how asteroids and meteoroids affect celestial bodies. Next, the Space Shuttle. Reusable Science Laboratory. The Space Shuttle program ran from 1981 to 2011, and it allowed astronauts to live and work in space for weeks at a time. A friend of mine named Andy Ertl was on my high school wrestling team in Appleton, Wisconsin. He was hired by NASA to work on the problem of astronauts losing strength while in space because gravity is so weak in space. The shuttle, unlike earlier capsules, could carry large payloads, including satellites, space telescopes, and parts of the International Space Station. Scientists aboard the shuttle studied everything from comets to microgravity's effects on plants and the human body. One shuttle mission even launched a probe to study asteroids. Shuttles like Discovery, Atlantis, and Endeavour made dozens of flights and conducted hundreds of space experiments proposed and designed by kindergarten through 12th grade students. Experiments including bacteria growth, crystal formation, fluid behavior, plant growth, and seed exposure to radiation in space. Honoring God through discovery. From Mercury to the shuttle, each mission brought new understanding of God's vast creation. We learned how stars release huge amounts of energy without quickly burning up, and how meteorites bring pieces from space to Earth. We've seen that comets are like dirty snowballs, and then like asteroids carry ordinary elements. The more we explore, the more we see how carefully everything has been designed. Space missions take courage, teamwork, and curiosity, but they also take faith. As we continue to explore the universe, let us never forget the one who made it all. As Psalm 19, verse 1 declares, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands." Question: what are some of the names of United States space missions? Answer: some names of United States space missions are: first, America's first step into space, Mercury. Second, learning to work in space, Gemini. Third, walking on the moon, Apollo. And fourth, reusable science lab, Space Shuttle. Listen again to what God's Word tells us in Psalm 8, verses 3 and 4 of the New King James Version. "When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him?" Thank you for listening to the Bible Science for Kids podcast from a uniquely young earth, biblical creationist perspective. I hope to see you next time for Cycle 2, Lesson 14, States of Matter. Until next time, this is Randy Osborne, reminding you to keep trusting and serving the Lord.